grandmother was beautiful. It was bright light, lovely, but it certainly wasn't the top area. It wasn't heaven. But you were close. I'm working towards that. I'm learning more spiritually.
This is Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God. Those moments when heaven and earth collide and we see God. We see His hand reaching out to us, attempting to get our attention, inviting us into a closer relationship. Here we share stories of encounter with angels, divine intervention, prophetic dreams, visions, near-death experiences, big and little God incidents. I'm your host, Trapper Jack. Welcome. Episode 142, just below heaven. Where's that? That in-between place. Between heaven and hell. Purgatory. Oh, then someone says, there's no purgatory. There's nothing in the Bible that says purgatory. True, yeah. And someone else says, yeah, well, look what it says in 2 Maccabees, though. It says that we need to pray for those who have died but are in need of our prayers. Yeah, that would be, and then someone says, 2 Maccabees. There's no 2 Maccabees in my Bible. Then, okay, what's in your Bible? What's in my Bible? Well, what about Revelation, where it says nothing unholy can enter heaven? If you died right now, would you call yourself holy, so pure, so holy? You know, you needed an 80 to get into heaven. You got a 79. You're not going to hell. You know, God doesn't work that way, that there's this in-between place where we are purged of our impurities. And someone says, well, yeah, because of and you go back and forth on purgatory. I don't want to do that. So as opposed to arguing back and forth, I'm going to go back to Lily again. If you didn't hear Lily last week, please go back to episode 141 and listen, and you'll get just a great sense of who Lily is, how God communicates with her experiences. After you hear that, you'll be all set up for this. You really will. Because she has had an experience that you could put under the realm of purgatory. You decide. We've referenced, too, that there seems to be this in-between place. Howard Storm in his near-death experience, although he doesn't acknowledge it as purgatory, to be honest with you, but he talks about this in-between place that Jesus was kind of taking him up through, from the darkness up to the light and then being able to see heaven. Talking to Faith back in episode 97, talking about this in-between place where prayers were pushing her towards heaven, which is theological. In my old Blind Faith Live podcast, we talked about people's experiences in this in-between place, this darker at the bottom, lighter at the top place, these levels that are in this in-between place. So today we go to Lily, who had this series. It's a series of, weren't exactly dreams, more visions than dreams. But again, and she didn't know where she was. It was like, where am I? And Jesus was giving her this tour, and she's just going, what? Well, you'll hear her confusion of what is this? As she's taken through the levels. Once again, this understanding of levels, that there are levels. St. Paul talked about levels in heaven, but levels also in purgatory, which makes sense as we are purged of our impurities. So here we go again. And as I say, if you haven't listened to 141, do yourself a favor to kind of set this up for episode 142, Just Below Heaven with Lily, here on Touched by Heaven, Everyday Encounters with God.
I could not get pregnant, and one night, this is when you had the old TV sets that had snow, because there's nothing else on TV, so you went to snow. We fell asleep. I hear the snow, from the TV set, and I think, oh my goodness, we left the TV set. I gotta turn that off. And I wake up to look for the remote to turn that off, and there's sparks flying all over my room. I'm saying, oh my gosh, there has to be an electrical fire or something, because was a spark, and it's all over the bedroom. And I'm looking, and I'm trying to wake my husband, who's not waking up, and I'm saying, there's an electrical fire or something. I didn't understand what was that, and he's sleeping. Then I look to my left, and standing next to me is this figure, and I start screaming because I thought it was some intruder somehow in the midst of this electrical fire going on. And then I look closely, and oh my goodness, that's my abuela, who had passed on. And I'm
okay. Your grandmother,
my grandmother.
Okay.
And I'm like, Abuela, what are you, Abuela? And she's bending over, looking. It's almost like looking at the reproductive organs. Okay. And I was like, Abuela, excuse me. And she wanted me to know that she understands what I'm going through. And she is praying from wherever she is, which I believe would be heaven. But that she was like granted special approval to be here to show me, because that's what the sparks were, as her coming into this realm. And as I understand that, and I'm like, thank you, because she's going to pray for me from the other side. And I am saying thank you that the sparks start slowly dissipating. Her image reduces. And just so at the last spark, I remember seeing the last spark go off and she vanished. So I go to bed, go to sleep. And next day, tell my husband and my mother, Abuela was here and she's praying for us. And oh my goodness, this is what happened. Probably several months later, I'm having these series of dreams. And in this first dream, Jesus takes me and we're like in a cave. And I hear this noise. The noise is deafening. It's like chatter. And it's dark and it's ugly. And he has my hand. And so where he walks is light. Like there's just light around him, but everything is dark in this cave. And we are walking, and I'm like, what is that noise? And where are we? And he's just like, follow me, just take it easy. So he walks and he wants to show me. There's a man crouched with his head in his hands, crouched down on the floor and grieving. And he just can't let go of his grief of whatever he's done. I'm like, I wonder who that is. Is that Judas? Who is that? Like, he just can't let it go. And Jesus is standing in front of them, bends down, puts his hand on their arm, and it doesn't matter. They don't even move their head up to see him. They're just stuck in their grief. And he looks at me like, okay, I'm here, but nothing. I'm like, okay, wow. And then there's a man and a woman, and they're like nose to nose arguing, one-upping each other. And they've got their fingers pointed at each other, and it's hostile. And Jesus grabs my hand, and we go in between them. So there they are, and they don't care about anything but besting the other person in the insults. And it's just hostile. And I thought, is this a homicide, suicide? And I am like, Jesus, they don't even see you. They don't even see you. And he just looks at me, and we keep walking. And then we walk past like a 16-year-old boy who's looking out forlornly. And I knew he had committed suicide, but he was so wrapped and comfortable in his misery. And I said, where can we get out of here? Give me out. Jesus, can we leave? This is bizarre. And so then I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, go back to sleep. Next day, tell my mother, Mom, this is what I dreamt. What in the world? And she said, I don't know. Let me think about that. Then, let's say a couple weeks later, I have this dream where, again, the noise is deafening. I'm with a bunch of souls, and it's like mother-daughter souls. And we are all coming down for some sort of education, let's say a conference going on. And we're all headed down, and I look up and there's people, mother-daughter souls coming down from different areas, and we're all going to meet and learn something. I mean, heaven is all about learning, all about growth. We have jobs to do. We have things to do. But anyway, everybody's descending to this spot because we're going to go through these doors and we're going to go to this whatever education we're going to get from whoever is going to be talking. But I'm looking around and I'm looking at the walls, And I'm like, who painted these walls this color? Because it's a drab golden color. But not golden. It's like a ugly tan. And I'm like, why are, the color was so, ugh. And I did not understand that. Like, what in the world? It's like you're trying to be gold, but it's not. And the color was, I was like, this color is, where are we? And I see my mother ahead with some of my sisters, and then her best friend I'm standing and walking with. And I look over, and coming from a different angle above us is somebody else I know with their daughter. And I thought, oh my gosh, they're higher than we are. And on Earth, they have a kind of a rocky relationship. Very interesting. So everything means something, but I just couldn't get over the color. And the noise was deafening, the chatter. It hurt my ears. And then I wake up and I can tell my mom, and she goes, oh, I think the Lord is showing you purgatory. There's different stages of purgatory. And I said, oh, that makes sense, because the walls were not gold. They weren't even there. There's light, but not, it was not, it was a lower area. That makes sense. Okay. So at least I put some sort of, purpose or reason to these, because they were not just dreams. They're like events. You feel like you have been there. It's an event. It's
and
different.
They're still learning. It's funny. I
Yes.
heard purgatory described as a place where you can still see Earth and what you're attached to, and that's what you were witnessing. You were witnessing that couple still attached to that thing that led to that murder suicide. Apparently, that really is what you felt. That was the end result of that, and of the suicide victim. And they're still dealing with what got them there. They haven't been so evil that they've totally been disconnected from God. So they're not in hell, but they're in a place kind of similar to it in its own ways.
It's ego.
Yeah,
they're wrapped in their ego of wanting to be right.
Right. So they're still attached to what it is. They're still attached to that earthly stuff that they have to get rid of before they can get into heaven, because nothing unholy gets into heaven, as it says in Revelation and all that. So who knows how long that takes? That can take a long time or the blink of an eye. Different levels of purgatory. Yes, purgatory has different levels, as heaven has these different levels as well. Mm-hmm. So, and you got to witness it.
Well, then a few weeks later, I am on an escalator. It's a very, like a narrow escalator, a one person at a time escalator can stand there. And again,
that sounds a little symbolic. Okay, is that the narrow gate? We got the narrow gate coming up next. Yeah.
So I'm behind these people. We're going up, and there's and again, the noise is deafening. There are a lot of people there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this again, the chatter is deafening. And there's a guy behind me, and he's talking, and it's talking and talking and talking. And I know that if I turn to look at him, he will continue talking. And it was nonsense. It was nonsense what he was telling me. It was all about whatever about himself. And it was just, I don't know. I just can't explain it, but it was like, wow. And I'm looking, meanwhile, I'm looking around like, where am I? And it's brighter. It's beautifully bright. I see like apartment buildings, if you will, really tall apartment building balconies, but I don't see grass. I'm like, where am I? I see on a balcony my grandmother, my abuela is right there. I look at her and I say to the gentleman, excuse me, sir, I think I need to go talk to my grandmother. And then all of a sudden I'm on her balcony with her, and we kind of meld together like a hug. And she is with two other ladies. So she's from Puerto Rico. But the two other ladies, one was Bolivian, and I don't know where the other lady was from. And they're looking at me. They're sitting on the balcony looking at me like, oh, how lovely, your granddaughter's visiting, that kind of look. I say hello to them, and I'm talking to my grandmother, and she's telling me about all that she's gotten to learn when she was alive. She had health issues. She was a little bit egocentric, and she maybe wasn't the best mother for my mother when she was growing up. She was gone a lot, and they didn't have a wonderful relationship. But as she got older, she became Pentecostal, and she became alive, happy, just rejoicing, seeing God in everything. I like to say she got younger as she got older. Just wonderful, beautiful, and became whole. Just beautiful. So here she is, and she's on the balcony, and she's telling me how the Lord is letting her learn and review her life and learn, and she's seeing it like you would watch a video or a hologram of things, events, and you can understand how things you said, how it affected others. You feel their pain or their happiness, or you understand the ripple effects of everything. But for her, what was important is to understand how much she was loved by her husband, by her family, how God worked all through her life. She couldn't see it at the time on earth, but she was allowed to see it from a different angle and to see how blessed she was. Her eyes were wiser. She was just delighted, And I said, so do you have a message for me to send to mom, to take back to mom? And she said, like what? And I said, do you have an apology for her? And she backed up and said, no. It was the condition that I was under when I was on earth. It was the condition. And no, look at how she grew. Look at how she developed with God. Look at where she is because of all the experiences, bad, indifferent, good, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's like, look what happened. There's no apologies. But I just thought that was fascinating. And I said, okay. She just wanted me to know that she was looking and reliving her life by watching it and seeing and understanding, having a heightened understanding of God in her life and all these events. And that if she had been able to understand that on earth, her life would have been different and better, but she, for whatever reason, couldn't. But she was allowed to learn that there.
Yeah. Where do you think she was?
She was still living in the light. The light is God's light.
A higher level of purgatory.
A higher level of purgatory. So
isn't there a part of you, I mean, as you tell me this story, there still seems to be that part of, no, I didn't do anything wrong. I have nothing to apologize for. We all have something to apologize for. So my sense is maybe there's still one more little bit of learning in there.
Oh yeah. Well, she's still in purgatory, but it's the higher level.
Right.
You're not far from God.
Right.
You have nice roommates.
Yep.
It's not bad. But so when I met with my mom to tell her about this, I said, I think we're supposed to pray for her so that she keeps ascending.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did. My sisters and I, we prayed for her, kept her in our prayers, our daily thoughts and things. And wouldn't you know, a few weeks later, I see her still in the same apartment building, but at a higher balcony.
I love it. Yeah.
She has her hand in the air, and then she pulls it down like with a fist, like, yes. She's just going higher.
Getting closer.
Yes.
I talked to somebody who had a vision, that top level of purgatory where you have their hands are up. They see Jesus coming, like pick me, get me, and Jesus is like pulling people out of the crowd and taking them to heaven. And that's an ongoing process as we as we learned in that purgative, burning off the impurities. You're burning off the impurities, basically, as you ascend, and until finally, nothing unholy can get in. So when all the impurities are taken out, can take whatever long length of time it takes, and grandma's close, if not already in.
When she died, I saw her walking what I would have thought would be heaven, with her palm raised up, and walking into heaven, and just like sauntering in, like, I am here. I felt like after a while she realized, wait, I don't want to be here until I belong here. I don't want to. I have things I have to learn, that I don't belong here yet. And I've seen other people who have passed on in other dreams, and they were at a lower level of purgatory, and that they like, I wouldn't say voluntarily go, but they agreed to be there because whatever time they spent there, they were dedicating that to their children that they left here, to help them too. Like, it's a penance, if you will. They were not only in purgatory, but they went to even a lower level.
Well, we know those in purgatory, we know that they can't pray for themselves. We have to pray for them. They can pray for us, but we can speed up their process by praying for them. We know that.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
Interesting. I think that's one of the best descriptions of purgatory I've ever heard, what you just talked about, how people are still dealing with whatever it is they deal with, getting rid of the impurities, and it gets brighter and brighter and lighter as you go up the balconies, and, so to speak, symbolically, until finally.
And Jesus visits us. I mean, Jesus visits them too. So they're just not living with him.
You hear near-death experiences. You familiar with, we've talked a lot about Howard Storm, his amazing near-death experience. This was an atheist who the demons did horrible things to, and then Jesus kind of plucks him up, and he suddenly realized Jesus is real. And Howard talks about how he's ascending, and he can see heaven. He sees the lights. I want to go there. Nope, you don't qualify. And he goes through that life review of everything. But again, it's that things go from that very dark to that much, much, much lighter. So I think it all adds up. These are great descriptions of purgatory.
It gets more beautiful because it was where my grandmother was. It was beautiful. It was bright light. It felt lovely, but it wasn't. It certainly wasn't the top area. It wasn't heaven. It was but you were close.
Yeah.
And the thing is that there's no like, oh, I'm so upset. It is, I'm working towards that. I'm learning more. And it's like an evolution happening spiritually that and it has to do with, this, I will say, incarnation on earth that we have. There's so much we're supposed to experience and learn. There's so much purpose to it. It's not meant to be a frivolous life, not for anybody. That there's spiritual growth that needs to happen. There's character building experiences that we all have to go through. It's all to evolve our being. And there's no place else for us to, there's a lot of learning that goes on the other side. But there's things that we experience here that you can't experience on the other side. And we choose to come here, and we choose to go through whatever life that we're living. And it's almost like it doesn't necessarily matter the things that happen here as much as it matters what we do with it. Do we be like the people that were at the lower level that are constantly wrapped in anger, or we feel so comfortable with our woes that we really don't want to step out of chaos we choose to stay where we're at. But here the truth is we're supposed to grow towards God in
Amen.
everything. Yeah.
Amen. I totally agree. Also, I think for those, and I think people get wrapped up, I think what we're describing here too explains again the teachings. And this has to do with what people say, if you don't get Jesus in this life, well, you're not going to heaven. Well, if you get love, and if love is greater than faith, okay, you die and you're just the most loving human being on the planet, but you believe Hinduism, atheism, whatever, but you have this love in you. When you're in purgatory and Jesus shows up and you go, oh, I missed that part, and he goes, yeah, but you got the love part, you might be in purgatory a half a second. When you think about, if you don't believe in a purgatory that, you had to get 80 on the score and you got a 79, I'm sorry, you're in hell. 80, you get to go to heaven. That's just not God. It's just not God.
No. People say that different religions, the great dilemma. Oh, how do we save the Hindus? How do we save, and I was praying to God because I feel like, there's, as long as it's, I don't feel it's my responsibility to change people's religions. I just don't. I have a lot of respect for different religions, but I was asking Jesus, what is this? What do you want us to do here? And I had a dream, another event, that there was this man that had died, and Jesus greeted him. The man didn't know it was Jesus, and felt love and compassion and a camaraderie with Jesus. This man began to kneel in front of one of his gods, one of the Hindu gods that he identified with. Jesus let him pray to that god. He was the man had Jesus was behind that god. Okay. And the man wasn't really paying much attention to Jesus because it was just a man that greeted him, is basically what. He was a nice guy, but he's praying to his God. Jesus let him finish his prayer, and then he leans out from that God became almost like a cardboard image. And the man is looking kind of confused, and Jesus said, do you remember when this and that happened in your life, and you prayed to this God, and it resolved itself this way? And you were so blessed and you were so happy. And the man, still on his knees, was like, yes, like, this God is wonderful. And Jesus said, that was me. And then he said, do you remember this in your life? This happened to you, and you were so upset, and you prayed to this God, and things happened this way. And the man said, yes. And she said, that was me. And the man was realizing that Jesus was God. So this man that greeted him, this lovely being, this lovely companion that is bringing him to this area, is teaching him, I was with you all along. But there was no condemnation. There's no anger. There's just a rejoice. It was me all along.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was telling me, that from then on, I don't worry about atheists. I don't worry about agnostics. I would love them, and will always talk if they ask. Talk to them about my religion or my religious experiences. But I don't worry about them because I know that eventually they're going to see and they're going to learn. So I don't think being condemning or judgmental. It's more of, hey, this is like, take St. Paul's method of, hey, I can only tell you about what's happened in my life, how God has shown up in my life. And it's exactly what you're doing. It's exactly what this program is that you have is doing. Is I'm not judging anybody. I can only share with you what's happened in my life and how God has shown up and how he's taken care of me and he loves me and he's there with me through thick and thin, no matter what happens in my life. He's my guide and my companion. And so it's more like I can only share with you what I can share with you.
Yeah, you just hope something clicks.
Yes.
I contend that atheists have faith far, far beyond mine. I don't have near the faith that atheists do, that all of this just happened. And if we really truly believe that love is greater than faith, then love will get you there. Love will get you to
Yes.
heaven. You might spend a little time in purgatory, and you might have to go, oh, Jesus, and slap yourself in the forehead and go, I could have had a V8, should have had a V8, and then off you go. But I hear what you're saying. I do feel that my job here, my duty here is to do this, and you hope people stumble upon it. And I've certainly talked to a lot of people who get an enlightenment and they realize a path, as we all do. We all encounter people along the way that make us go, oh, okay. And so we certainly hope we do that. And we pray for atheists and those who just don't have it. But there are some beautiful Hindus and Muslims and on and on and on and on.
Yes.
And anytime, I've never heard of an apparition yet where Jesus took someone by the collar and said, you should be Lutheran. You got to be Methodist. You got to be Catholic. It's not the way he operates. It's like it delves into love and forgiveness and learning, and this is what you did. All these life reviews and the near-death experiences of and then watching their sins get blotted out on the big scoreboard.
Oh, I love that. I love learning. I love learning from your program. I really do. It's so exciting and calming, and I just love the things that you have taught me and other people have taught me. It's beautiful.
Well,
it's wonderful.
I'm getting chills because I'm listening to a master here. So we are learning from you here today. We really are. I think we're going to be talking again because I feel like you just we're just touching the surface of your experiences and your knowledge and your understanding.
And I'll talk with you anytime. It'd be a privilege. It's a privilege to talk to you, and I really admire what you're doing, and just blessings upon you. It's just beautiful. I do have one thing for you though. Mm-hmm. In an earlier podcast, there was a woman, and you guys were talking about her eye. The woman was visiting her mother who was in the hospital, and the mother kept looking over to the side, and her eyes were like big saucers. And you said something about, I'd love to know about what that's about. But when I'm praying with people and Jesus enters the room, their souls get these huge eyes, like big, like a oval it's a vertical. Their eyes get big like that because their soul realizes that they are in the presence of God. And it's almost like, if you are a big fan of somebody and you're like, you get to talk to them and you're so excited and starstruck. It's like that, but take it to the nth degree. But those big saucer eyes are like, the Lord is with me.
So the answer to the question is, I'm assuming heavenly. I'm assuming angel. Are we assuming Mary? Are we assuming somebody who's deceased and gone on? You're saying when they get that big, it's Jesus.
Yeah.
He's there.
Jesus.
It's Jesus.
It is. Yeah. Jesus is in the room. Yes. He is in the room.
I love that.
And they are realizing, wow, here he is.
See, now you just said that word again. I'm getting chills again. Everything I ever heard about Steve Jobs was he was prickly and a bit of a jerk, and he was this and this and this, and yet he had that wow moment at the end where he looked out at that doorway and 3 times he's going, wow. Now that's, it's like, I'm not sure where he was being led, but it didn't sound like it was Satan that was going to be doing the leading. So my sense is there's just something there that most people around him didn't see. Maybe,
And you wonder about his faith. I would love to know, because we've read that, but I would love to know the status of his faith. And maybe he was realizing, wait, there's more to it than I ever gave credit.
Maybe at the end he discovers something we're just not privy to. Maybe. I don't know. And every soul, it's funny, some people have such a narcissistic something, but sometimes there's a heart in there that we just don't register, but God does. And that's why the Bible warns us, we don't know, we can't judge someone's heart. Only God can see that heart.
Right.
You know?
Right. And we don't know why people are in the predicament they're in, whether it's whatever they're doing.
Something in their past.
Something that has damaged, that they're damaged or.
Yeah. And God has mercy.
Yes. And understanding and love. And Jesus will be with us, whether he's happy with what we're doing or not. He doesn't leave us. He will be with us, just like waiting for us to wake up. Wake up.
That phrase keeps coming back, girl. Everybody I'm talking to that's Net said it. We are so in need of a wake up. We are so in need of a wake up, and it's coming. That wake up is coming.
Yes. I'm hoping, Trapper, that you will, once this COVID plight is over, put together a pilgrimage to Medjugorje and a group of people. I would love to go with a group there. I've never been. I've always wanted to go. But since listening to your podcast, I really, really want to go. And it would be great to have a group going together. And
I'm getting chills again. You keep giving me chills. I don't know. That Medjugorje keeps popping up every episode. You make it the umpteenth in a row that's going to be popping up. And there's
Garabandal.
Oh my gosh. There are more things that happened at Garabandal, Spain back in the 60s than maybe any place else.
Yeah.
One more story to go down. Well, I'm going to let you go, but we're going to talk again, okay?
Thank you, sir. Great to talk to you.
You too, Lily.
God bless you. God bless you. God bless you.
Thank you, Lily. Thank you so much for these last 2 episodes. Wonderful insights here at touchedbyheaven.net, but episodes 141 and 142. In fact, here at 142, if you want to click the show notes or go to touchedbyheaven.net, 142, I'm going to put a YouTube video link to Father Mike Schmitz as he explains theologically more about how it's tied into biblical passages and such. So it's an interesting video if you want to check that out, okay? But the big takeaway in this episode and all those levels down there at the bottom, that ego that was so loud, chattering away. Let's just play that again one more time, just to remind us where we want to stay away from.
And they've got their fingers pointed at each other, and it's hostile. And Jesus grabs my hand, and we go in between them. So there they are, and they don't care about anything but besting the other person in the insults. And it's just hostile. And I am like, Jesus, they don't even see you.
All right. Thank you so much. So what's your story? What's your story? What is your Touched by Heaven story? Angels, prophetic dreams, visions, near-death experiences, divine interventions, whatever it is. Love to hear it. Contact me here at touchedbyheaven.net. If these episodes are a blessing, bring you closer to God in your faith, in your journey, thank you so much for considering supporting us on a monthly basis through Patreon at patreon.com. You can search for Trapper Jack or click here at episode 142 at touchedbyheaven.net. My shout out this week goes to Phyllis. Thank you so much, Phyllis Merling. Phyllis Merling helping us out at Patreon. Thank you, Phyllis, so much. And thank you also for keeping us a 5-star podcast in your podcast app. If you can rate and review, that would be just awesome. Oh, also at 142, click on that link about staying informed, because if you want to get an email about other things happening in this Touched by Heaven universe, we have some links in our email each week that we send out. I'd love to put you on that email list if you would like at touchedbyheaven.net. Stay informed. All right, we'll do this again next week here at Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God. I'm Trapper Jack.